Hello, everyone. This is Keith Stone with the Center for Hellenic Studies, here for another installment of Office Hours with Greg Naj and our assembled panel of conversants, Janet,
Ooh, I like that.
Aylin, and Sarah. I just made it up right now. I improvised like a Homeric poet might.
I like it.
So I'm not sure if it fit into the right meter, unfortunately. And we're going to talk about Plato today. A couple of questions about, let's see, does Socrates like Odysseus? I think that's one of the questions, and the other one is, oh, let me find it while Greg is turning his phone off.
I just did.
Okay. Oh, right, about the conversation, possible conversation between Socrates and his wife, Xanthippe.
Yes,
might have been
yes,
said.
yes. Well,
that's interesting. Let's start with that one.
Yeah, let's start
Actually,
with the possible conversation of Socrates with his wife, who seems to be much younger than he is, and it's very hard to nail down the historical facts about how old Xanthippe was, and there are many, I shouldn't say many, there's some myths about that kind of collect around that one small scene. But I've always been fascinated with how we always assume that Socrates is being callous in the way he sends Xanthippe away. It's almost like, get this woman out of here, she's lamenting, and I don't want lamentation, as if somehow the male followers of Socrates would not be lamenting. And in fact, they really do break down and not just cry, but cry demonstratively and in a way that's undignified. And it's almost as if Plato's making fun of just how gushy, if I can put it that way, the students of Socrates are. So I don't think it's a kind of male dominant exercise in how old men can control their emotions, because these students of Socrates fall apart and you could say they are what Arnold Schwarzenegger would have called girdly men. But the flip side is that, look what Xanthippe, the wife, is saying to Socrates is, I'm crying because you and your friends, and by implication I, won't have dialogue with you anymore. So it's crying about the end of dialogue, not crying, oh, Socrates, I'll miss you, or here you are leaving me with orphan children. No, it's not that. Mm-hmm. And so in a way, the point of the whole work by Plato, which is we must not let the dialogue die, is what comes across even with Xanthippe. So I kind of like it, and I think it sort of evokes the scene of Hector and Andromache, where Hector and Andromache say goodbye to each other. So there's potential. Mm-hmm. And if I were a creative artist, I would love to try to put together some 10-minute micro drama about what private moments Socrates and Xanthippe had with each other. What did Socrates say to her, if anything? But I can imagine things. So anyway, that has its moments. And Plato, you know, Plato understands Homeric poetry so well. I still remember when I was first working on the Apology, I thought, Plato doesn't have it right. He is conflating what Achilles says in Iliad 9 with what Achilles says in Iliad 18 and beyond. And now I realize he's not conflating. After many, many years, I realize he's not conflating what he's saying in 9, where I have choices. I have two choices, I think. My mother tells me I have two choices. Either I stay in Troy and have an early death because it's just inevitable, but then at least I'll have an epic Gloria Kleos that will last forever. So that's what he says in 9, and then in 18 he says, I know I'm going to die if I now fight Hector, but I'm going to die, and I've decided. And so I thought, that's really maybe a misinterpretation than what Plato says, where I should say Plato Socrates says, which is, I'm ready to die because I don't want to be a burden on the earth, and so I do. I hope I said that right. I'm ready to die, but he doesn't really talk about kleos in 18 and beyond. And now I realize that that's because Achilles hadn't made up his mind yet in 9. He just says that's what his mother told him, that he would get kleos if he chooses to stay at Troy. Now he's saying, I'm choosing to stay at Troy, and I know I'll die, but you put them together, those two Homeric sequences, and then I now have come around to see that Plato, or should I say better, Plato Socrates does read the Iliad correctly. So I guess Socrates would be a good interviewer of Achilles if there is the kind of afterlife where Socrates has a chance to have a dialogue with Achilles, which is what is also said in the Apology. And I'm so glad that I'm so glad that I asked that question, because I thought that the participants responded to it, even if they weren't sure which side of the debate to come down on. What do you think?
Well, if we could just go back to Xanthippe for a second, the fact that she is so keyed into what Socrates says about dialogue, that that's what she'll miss.
Yes.
Suggests to me that she really was one of his dialogic partners, because how else would she have, come to know his thoughts so well, I suppose.
Yes, she seems to understand what he's all about and what the whole Socrates project is all about.
Mm-hmm. You said, Greg, that there are myths about this conversation. Did I understand that right?
Yes, and I don't really follow them well because they're superficial. Many of them are misogynistic, okay, and they don't seem to be directly connected to historical facts or even to Plato's construct. Okay. So it's people free associating. So, okay. So I think I'll just let that go. Mm-hmm. I wish I hadn't even said it, because I hope people aren't too interested in it.
Well, I was, but I'll try to.
Well, Greg, I think you're right about it not being, his ideas not being misogynistic, because going back to the other question about Odysseus, yes, when he's talking about, he'd be able to question the leader of the great Trojan expedition, like Agamemnon, yes, or Odysseus, Sisyphus, yes, countless other men and women too, he says. So he's envisaging talking to both male and female heroes, I think.
Sarah, thank you. That's brilliant, and that's maybe the most important takeaway from this this conversation that the 5 of us are having. That's absolutely spot on. That's beautiful. Yes, and here's something else about those dialogues in the underworld, or let's say the life beyond. And let me get back to that. I should emphasize that when Odysseus is mentioned by Plato Socrates, people like Plato and Socrates himself are perfectly aware that there's a myth that puts Odysseus in a very bad light, where Odysseus contrives the death of a rival smart person called Palamedes. And the story of Palamedes was well known not only to intellectuals like Socrates and Plato, but even to non-intellectuals, even to your everyday people, and how Palamedes, who, according to some traditions, was even more intelligent than Odysseus, was slandered because of the plot, because of a plot by Odysseus, and was then tried and convicted and killed by the Achaeans. So, of course, that would mean that Socrates is not a kind of reenactment of Odysseus, the trickster. He's a reenactment of that other trickster, that rival, Palamedes. And here's the thing, Palamedes is never mentioned directly anywhere in the Odyssey, or for that matter in the Iliad, never. So, in a sense, that aspect of Odysseus as a potentially malicious trickster is shaded over. And those aspects of Odysseus where he is a trickster who helps humanity or tries to help humanity, that is highlighted. But could I talk just a little bit? We'll come back to this, but I'm worried that I'll forget saying this, is that in the translation of Jowett, and even more recent translations, it looks as if everything that happens in the afterlife is in Hades. And I'd like to point out that Hades, not just in Homeric poetry, but even in other forms of tradition, is transitional, not eschatological. By eschatological, I mean it's not a matter of eschatology. It's not a matter of where you wind up after death. As we would say, you go to heaven or hell. No, Hades is a transition, and it is a trial of who you were in life, so that whatever your afterlife is fits the aspirations, the trajectory even of what you want it to be in life. And some people get lost in Hades. Did I say people? Some psychi, who are the conveyors of identity in the afterlife, get lost, and others find themselves in a very good place. And you might remember in Odyssey 11 that Achilles, although he seems like a very sad person, after the interview in Hades, he goes off to the meadow of Asphodel. So it's some kind of private afterlife. Maybe not so private, but in any case, that's where he goes. So similarly, if you're thinking of all these heroes that Socrates mentions, most of whom are cult heroes, and therefore are part of cult hero myths of hero cult that tell about how heroes are immortalized after death. Presumably, when Socrates talks to them, he too is in his own heaven, so to speak, which would happen after Hades. Otherwise, frankly, I can't imagine where these interviews would be taking place. I don't think they're taking place in dark, dank Hades myself.
So it's not like Odysseus' interview with various ghosts in hell, so to speak.
Exactly, because there he's really behaving, Odysseus is, as a living person who is sacrificing to the venerated dead, and going back all the way to the world of the venerable world of heroes of the heroic world. Mm-hmm. And so that's why, remember, he sacrifices rams, and then it's the blood that comes from the ram's throat that activates the psychi, who are insubstantial, to become a memory bank and to be able to speak about what their epic destiny is. But it's still in terms of epic, not in terms of how you worship heroes, or how you worship, for that matter, even your ancestors, like your great-grandparents or whatever.
I'm thinking of this conversation again between Socrates and Xanthippe, and it reminds me of the prophecy of Teiresias,
yes,
to Odysseus, which is, after you thank all the gods, take this journey, and then you'll die.
Yes, yes.
And I always am disappointed, because the end of the Odyssey is great. Like, Odysseus and Penelope are reunited.
Yes,
the happy ending. And then I think, he just has a few more things to do, and then they're separated again.
Well, yes.
And they have to have a conversation like this that Socrates and Xanthippe have. And what was that conversation like? I guess?
Yes. Well, the thing is that I'm sure their goodbyes and then redone hellos in many, many, many different Odysseus traditions. And
that would short circuit the Odyssey. It's about the return. You're supposed to be happy to come back, not that he's going to leave and die.
Yes, but Keith is saying, Holly is saying that after all, the happy ending is there. But Keith is saying that,
I heard what Keith said.
It's not the ending. It's not the ending.
It's in Odyssey 11. There are sequels to the Odyssey. How's that? There's sequels to the Odyssey that would imply that after this wonderful, happy reunion, there are going to be more adventures and presumably yet another goodbye, and then, oh, I'm coming back again, etc., etc. However, in some of these adventures, he doesn't come back again because he does get killed, as in his encounter with his son Telegonus, who is a kind of nightmarish twin of Telemachus. Telegonus being born of Circe versus Telemachus being born of Penelope. But I take Holly's point that by the time you do reach the end of the Odyssey, you really forget about the prophecy of Teiresias in 11, or maybe you do. It's just that there's no such thing as a be-all and end-all conclusion to the story of Odysseus. The story of Odysseus will go on anyway, and we should just be happy that our Odyssey has a happy ending. How's that?
I guess I can imagine them, Odysseus and Penelope, kind of ruling the neighborhood, as cult heroes, seated together on their thrones next to each other. That's the happy ending.
Well, what you just said, Keith, is the way we sort of are forced to imagine Helen and Menelaus in Odyssey 4. Right. There they are, still in the kind of life that we're used to. It's Mr. and Mrs. Royalty, and there they are in Sparta. And you kind of forget that in the myth ritual system of Sparta, Menelaus was worried as a cult hero who is already imagined as immortalized after death. I emphasize after death because he is the consort of Helen. And then Helen, as far as Sparta is concerned, is a premier goddess of Sparta. A premier doesn't sound right because it sounds masculine. Okay, premiere goddess of Sparta. And so similarly, I love the way Keith imagines Mr. and Mrs. Royalty of Ithaca just ruling in a palace. But you notice that we're now drifting from the world of epic, where heroes do things like fight at Troy, and where female heroes like Penelope have to fight off nasty suitors. And we're moving into the realm of hero cults, where we're in a world that's not very suited for epic action. And so another way to say it, Keith, is that amazing prophecy of Teiresias is really predicting not just other Odysseys, but other Odysseys that may be connected more directly with myths and rituals that center on the hero cult of Odysseus rather than on his two big epic accomplishments. One, what he did at Troy, and then two, even more important, what he did by way of just succeeding in getting home and reestablishing himself as king, and may I say it this way, remarrying Penelope and getting reunited with his chain of ancestors by showing his father that, yes, I understand the garden.
Mm-hmm. All right, now I'm going to put Janet and Aylin on the spot in the interest of distributing
yes,
the speakership in this little office hours. Got any comments to add on the spot? Sorry, it's unfair, I know.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering about this, the way that Socrates is hoping that the philosophical discussion will go on, because that is the most important part of the dialogue.
Nice.
And I think, yes, I think he ties it from the epic, and then from Homeric, his Homeric dialogue with Achilles. But then he goes on, and he wants the philosophy dialogues that he's having with his friends to go on.
Yes.
And after his death.
Well, that's a beautiful point. Helen is really connecting the world of dialogue with the epic world that we love to talk about too. So that conversation continues as well. I love that.
It seems like Achilles is having a philosophical discussion. Not that this is different from what Helen was saying, but to add on it, to build on it, all of his thoughts about what is good to do in life. Should I fight and die, or should I do other things like go home and have a nice life? That seems like a very philosophical discussion right in the epic.
And dear Janet,
yes,
what do you think?
One of the participants asked about how Socrates would be a dialogic partner with Odysseus.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was wondering which Odysseus he is going to talk to.
Brilliant.
And what happens? Who adjusts? Does Odysseus adjust his answers, or and he might say, you told me this yesterday, what's happening today? Just a very humorous conversation.
Oh, I love that. And you know what that makes me think of, dear Janet, is how in one of the dialogues attributed to Plato, the Hippias, and this is the smaller of two such works, Socrates, in a very mischievous way, is making the argument that it's Achilles who can't seem to get his story straight, so to speak, that if you look at what Achilles is saying, it's not consistent. It's inconsistent. And that, if you like, in the Iliad, especially Iliad 9, he changes his mind 3 times. 3 times. And so the way Socrates playfully puts it is, well, who's the one who's not telling the truth? Is it really Odysseus, or is it Achilles? And so, yes, you're so right. There's so many wonderful dialogic exercises that it can be played out, and with just on the basis of knowledge of epic. Going also back to what Helen said, it's not just the knowledge of epic; it's the knowledge of philosophy and epic combined. What a dialogue!
Well, that's about our time. Before we go, Greg, I just want to ask you, so why are you in LA again?
Okay, so it is, and unfortunately, Holly has already left and gone down for breakfast, so I can't swivel the camera around.
Not too bad. Well, thank you for jumping in. Also,
but you know, I think she wouldn't have been very happy if I put her on the spot. I think our 4 participants, my 4 participants here, have been really good sports about being on the spot. But now I'll put myself on the spot. So if you look at the latest posting in Classical Inquiries, you'll see what I did last night, which is give an inaugural lecture for the establishment of a chair and a research center, so not just a professorship, but a research center that studies the impact of Iranian civilization on world civilization. And it's a great project. And the professor who is in charge asked me to be the keynote speaker, which was anxiety making because I'm not an Iranist, I'm a Hellenist, or think I am anyway. So that's what I did. And wonderful Keith, I want to tell Janet and Helen and Sarah, wonderful Keith has already edited it, so it's online. And Keith, if you want to tell the wonderful people out there where to go? Well, the easiest thing is to do classical inquiries, right?
Yeah, just Google classical inquiries. Or Google the last words of Socrates, because that is always our top post ever.
I love that.
That's the
I
most
love that.
popular one. And ours is the first hit for that. Last words of Socrates.
I love that. Isn't that nice? So just to repeat, because I'm so proud of this, these posts in this electronic journal called Classical Inquiries have been going on since Valentine's Day 2015.
Yeah.
Every week. And as Keith has just told everybody out there, is the most popular of all the posts was the last words of Socrates. So how can you top that?
Can't do it.
And so here we are, last words of Socrates. And why don't we say it this way? Last words of Xanthippe.
Nice.
Nice.
How's that?
Yes.
Yeah, those can be our last words for today.
Wow, thank you.
So great. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you.
Till next
Bye.
time.